And hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's round number 3 of the MEA Prototype Challenge here at Le Mans. I'm SSR Mayhem, and thank you for tuning in here tonight. The driver's just finishing up qualifying. It's moments away from race time. We might go over the time just a little bit, just to get things set up. But with that being said, we're back, and we're looking forward to some more fun here at MEA. Last week we had a great battle between McGezin and Barcode and Sean and Pipes and there was about 5 or 6. I could list off all of them. The Grect was in there, and tonight might be just the same. A drafting track. It's gonna be hard for the drivers to get away from each other, but a classic and a very well-known course around the world. As of right now, there's 14 drivers in the queue ready to rock and roll as they're finishing up this session. And then we'll get their times and we'll be able to see what the lineup looks like here tonight. And if anything looks correct, looks like Dex McGezin will take the pole. And I don't know if I have the updated point standings just yet. We had to get over some things this past week, but we'll figure it out. And here they are. The results from qualifying. Dex McGezin with a 3:33.244 over F1R Sean. ESV Barcode, the points champion and the defending champion. That's just how they finished up in qualifying, not by times. And again, there it is. Legret 4th, Bobberts 5th, Villa 6th, Catillo 7th, 8th Little Caesar, 9th Houseman, Quinn in 10th, Mulder, newcomer, 11th, PTG Neb 12th, Montero 13th, also newcomer, and Darluki in 14th. And actually, I don't think Montero ever got a time in. A couple guys had some dirty times. Those will go to the tail of the field. But there you have it, Dex McGezin once again showing the pace, showing the pride. Sean as well. You know, it's going to be an interesting fight here tonight. Barcode about 7/10 off of those guys, and then the Grect about 12/10 back. Stay tuned as we prepare for another great race here in MEA. And again, welcome back to round number 3 of the MEA Prototype Challenge here at Le Mans. Again, last week we had a grueling duel between 5 drivers: Pipes, Sean, McGezin, Barcode, who came out of nowhere, had some incidents early on with McGezin to end up winning. And coming into tonight, Barcode finishing 3rd fastest in qualifying, but this is a track that guys are going to stay close together. It's a drafting track, so we know that the drivers aren't going to get away too easily, and if someone can break the draft and move forward, well, then that's going to be a question of who can do that. But we're going to have to find out as we prepare for the halfway point of the season, with only 3 races to go after tonight. I believe we're waiting for F1R Sean. Sean having some technical issues today. But here with us and looking to have a good race. Very happy with his season so far. And the MEA Prototype Challenge has pretty much opened up this championship with a very strong running. And again, the points did not get uploaded from last week. We were dealing with some issues and trying to handle some problems with the previous week with possible penalties due to the lack of certain things such as logos and stuff that would have penalized a driver for not having certain things. But how many times have I got to hit ready to spectate? I've hit it twice now, which means they keep playing with the dang thing on there. And just to give everyone a little bit of a heads up, I'm not sick. I got this random cough though. The weather over here has gotten a bit colder, and my throat. Oh, I need to mute myself there. Well, you heard it. Feels like as if I've talked too much already the last couple of days. So if I fade in and out today, if there's a little segment where it's quiet, that's probably what the problem is, and I'm just trying to manage it. But regardless, should be fine overall. Again, not sick, just I think the weather getting colder has affected me in some way. So we'll figure it out as time goes on here. But we'll see if a cough drop here can help me out. Once again, just waiting on, I believe, Sean. Having technical issues today, which wanted to reset his Xbox before the race to make sure that he didn't get bumped out. And rightfully so. I mean, he's been having a great season. You know, we go back to the GT Championship Series, who, you know, Sean was defending his, you know, back-to-back championships, trying to go for a 3rd peat. Since the return of MEA, you know, between then and the last event, it was about a year and a half. And did not have a great showing in that championship, and you know, these first 2 races in the Prototype Challenge, I believe Sean just popped in, but he's had nothing but success. And a great stride last week was heartbreaking in some sense. Sean did everything he could, everything right. Oh, I'm sorry, Barco did not win last week. I am so sorry, guys. It was McGezin, or no, Sean. I am so sorry, guys. I had a moment there. Feel free to get on me about it. Sean won last week. It's been a long week. It's been a busy week. So to recap last week, Barcode and McGezin got into it early in the race. Barcode fell as far back as I think 11th at one point. It took him the entire race to get there. And it was Pipes, Sean, McGezin, Legrecht, and a couple other drivers in and out who were all battling for the top 5 spots. And then a big accident with pipes collected McGezen and the Grecht, and Barco was sitting about 5th place at that point of the race. And for the first time, the caution system had taken effect here at MEA. A safety car was put out. The drivers got lined back up. A fun duel between all those drivers. And then Barcode had an issue. McGezen had an issue. Sean would go on to win his first race of the season, and his first race in quite a long time. So with that being said, we should be moments away. I do believe that Sean got in there. I do see some chatter in the MEA Discord about possible issues, and also Cranky, ZR Cranky has made the race, misqualifying, was in another event for, I believe it was a PTG event, so misqualifying is going to start the tail of the field. And I believe Cranky's the only driver that has not readied up. So if you're just tuning in, qualifying just got finished. We just had to wait for Sean, and in the meantime we've also got Cranky showing up last second. Had to come from another event, so we'll have to start the tail of the field for missing qualifying. Dex McGezen on the pole for tonight's race, and this is a big race for McGezen. You know, we talk about week 1 back in Indianapolis. Battled with Barco. Barco just beat him in qualifying on the very last lap. McGezen led all the other laps in qualifying up to that point. The race begins. Barco gets a nice lead. McGezen closes in and then takes the lead, and a few laps later spins out on his own and falls back to about 6th, 7th place. Would go back to recovering, but could never get back into the fight for the win. He'd have to finish runner-up. And then last week at Road America, similar situation. Was dueling up front, would end up finishing 6th due to a pit issue. Ran out of gas on the final lap. Him and Pipes both had to pit late. And, you know, the question marks have been this season, if you've tuned into the Monday live show here at MEA, Boberts and I always go over stuff, is the consistency by the Dexterity driver. As we sit on board with Dex McGezen on the opening pace lap. So let's talk about the starting lineups here tonight. Starting on the front row, your pole sitter, the guy battling for the championship, had a rough week last week at Road America. Dex McGezen trying to go for his first win on the season. And then last week's winner, a guy that's had a rough GT Championship Series but has rebounded here in the Prototype Challenge, F1R Sean. In the third row, it's ESV Barcode, defending champion, going for the three-peat this season, has picked up one win back in IMS. F1R the Grecht, runner-up in the GT Championship Series, is going to be on the outside of him in the fourth spot. Then we go back to the third row. It's ESV Boberts alongside ZR Villa, making his return back after missing last week, being out of town. I think both of these drivers were both out of town last week. Boberts wasn't in the race. Then it's Dex McGezen's teammate, Dex Tierney driver Cotillo, in the 7th spot. Alongside him, PTG Little Caesar got his first top 5 last week. And then rounding out the fifth row, PTG Houseman alongside ZR driver Derluki. Behind them, it's SSR Quinn with first-time comer RX Mulder X28. We're just going to call him Mulder or RX Mulder. First time here in MEA. Then it's PTG Neb on the outside of him. Neb looking to have a good recovery race from starting in the back from qualifying. And then in the final row, two ZR teammates, drivers. ZR Montero for the first time here at MEA, and his teammate, ZR Cranky. I think it's Haye, I'm not saying it all race long. I'm sure one of you guys will correct me because you guys do it all the time. So big question marks here tonight. How strong is the draft? How tough is it going to be a pass? Will we see a lot of passing? Will we see a lot of tough driving? Will there be big accidents? Again, the safety car rule is in effect for the entire season. And for those that are unfamiliar with the rule, it's a new rule here at MEA for the first time in quite a long time since we've outside of our IndyCar or NASCAR stuff. We had our first moment last week, and the only way that card comes out, the only way that caution will come out is if two drivers have contact and one of those drivers gets damaged from the incident. So if it's a solo driver, they cannot call caution, but it has to be one, or it has to be two or more drivers. So just keep your eyes on that here tonight. And for those that follow us on any other social media, you can go to YouTube from last week's race. Last week's race at Road America is uploaded to our YouTube channel on MEA Online Racing. You can also follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at MEA Online Racing, where we do the majority of our postings for social media. You also follow us on Discord, or I should say join our Discord. And if you want that, we'll put the link down in the chat box. Just let me know and I'll put it down there for you guys. Only a few turns to go. Drivers will start doubling up here shortly. Dexterity in the fight in the team championship. They are third going into last week. I would assume they're still sitting third, possibly second. Last week, Bobberts did not make the race, so Barcode was the only one collecting points. Bobberts was out of town. Also, the ZR team is out of the current situation just because I think they all missed last week too, so. Hey, Vinny. Don't change camera a lot. Well, I typically don't unless I need to. Anyways, here we go! Doubling up at the line, and they are green here at Le Mans! Dexterity driver, Dex McGezin, gets the early lead, but Sean to the inside, now to the outside. Sean looking to make a move here on McGezin early. Sean staying to the inside, can't get the job done. Dex McGezin back to the race lead. Meanwhile, ESV Barcode fending off F1R driver Legrecht for the third spot, and ESV Bobberts in the midst of war right now with ZR Villa battling for that fifth spot. So far so good to all the drivers up front. Dex McGezin able to hang on against F1R Sean. Meanwhile, F1R Legrecht on the back bumper of ESV Barcode. Bobberts has fallen in line with Villa in the sixth spot. Now there goes Sean to the inside of McGezin for the race lead. Sean to the point. New race leader, F1R Sean, last week's winner at Road America, to the front. ESV Barcode and Legrecht right behind them. Into the Porsche S's. Barcode on the bumper of McGezin now. Sean starting to stray away just for the moment. The draft is going to get a little bit strong here, so though Sean's getting a little bit away, he's not going to get too far away. It's going to take a lot more than a couple of bad turns. You're going to need some problems from the guys behind you to get a good run and stay out front. And Barcode really doing some work on McGezin, staying on his bumper. That's the best gap we had between him and McGezin. The top 6 drivers separating themselves from the field. PTG Little Caesar leading the second group back. And then at the tail, it's Dex Gatillo, PTG Neb, and Derluki, 13th through 15th, in their own little group. And Gatillo, not sure what happened. He has fallen back quite a bit. Not have a good start. And Bobberts was able to get by ZR Villa for the 5th spot, back into the top 5. 15 drivers out there, 15 guys going to work. Sean going to work on the defensive end. No one trying to make a move just yet. Then there's Legrex right behind them. 4 cars under a blanket right now in the opening lap here at Le Mans. Staying strong with one another. And you look at the guy behind McGezin, that's ESV Barcode. Barcode, who had the best 2 first weeks, and then you say Sean finishing 3rd at IMS and then 1st last week. Barcode winning at IMS, and I believe he finished 3rd or 4th last week. And McGezin looks to the inside as it goes through this section. What a bad camera angle that is, as McGezin goes to work on Sean for the race lead. Not able to get the job done as we hop back on board with McGezin. I've never seen the camera angles at Le Mans yet, so I wasn't really expecting that angle. And again, if you're just tuning in for the first time here today, it's round 3 of the MEA Prototype Challenge here at Le Mans. We got a 4-car battle for the race lead, possibly 5 or 6 here. There goes Legrec to the inside of Barcode, as we got a battle for 3rd in the midst right now. Bobberts right behind them, 2 ESV drivers working together, 2 teammates. And the Barcode says, "Not today, young man." F1R Sean able to fend off Dex McGezin, getting into the early stages of the lap, and Bobberts to the inside of Legrec for the moment. Legrec says, "Not today, sir." That's given Barcode a little bit of a gap between him and Legrec now that Bobberts has put the pressure on Legrec. Meanwhile, that brought Villa back into the fight, and the battle for the race lead is back on. But Sean is a little bit stronger on these long straights than McGezin. McGezin's a little bit better through the corners. And Sean took the lead early in this one, and you think about how long these laps are, and McGezin to the outside of Sean. Sean stays to the inside. They touch just briefly for a moment there. McGezin has to hold to the inside. Sean back to the inside now as well. Sean and him touch briefly. McGezin gets thrown to the side. Sean retains the lead, and Barcode's now into the fight. Side by side down the straight. We thought Sean's car was a little bit stronger, but it looks like McGezin's is good, and Barcode goes with Sean. And Sean remains to the outside, back to the inside. Barcode now to the inside of McGezin. McGezin has to go a little bit wide. McGezin comes back onto the racetrack. They go door to door now down the straight. Touching and banging. Barcode pushing F1R Sean to the front. 3 cars fighting for the race lead. Barcode backs off of Sean now, gets back in line under with McGezin. McGezin holding to the outside of Sean. Meanwhile, it's Bobberts and Legrec now getting into the fight as well. And Villa. 6 cars going for it all. To the inside, Sean. Sean still fighting for the race lead. McGezin to the outside for the moment. Barcode pushing Sean to the front. Sean retaining the lead for the moment. McGezin still to the outside of Barcode. Barcode and him almost touch. Now it's Villa watching from the back. Now he sees 5 cars under a blanket. And McGezin hits to the side for the moment. Barcode staying true to Sean now. And there's Legrec to the outside of Barcode. 2 by 2. McGezin to the race lead. McGezin overdrives a corner now, so crossover by Sean. Sean now to the outside of McGezin now, still fighting for the race lead. McGezin to the inside is going to take the point. Now Barcode door slams into Sean. Sean now falling back to 3rd. Barcode to the outside, getting into McGezin's draft. The 2 guys we thought were fighting for the championship passing on by Sean. But don't think it's over just yet for Sean. Sean last week was resilient at Road America. Sean remains resilient here at Le Mans, fighting to the outside of both of them. Now Barcode and Sean with a deathly duel for second. Barcode to the outside will take a power move for the second spot. Now it's F1R Sean's teammate Legrec. Legrec's going to cut him a break for the moment. They get back to Barcode. Barcode's losing a little bit of control through the corners. Now Sean trying to settle in tight right behind Barcode. Barcode now stabilizes. Meanwhile, Bobberts and Villa looking on from the rear. Bobberts and Villa have not been able to strike just yet, but they're watching, they're there, they're waiting for their moment. Barcode getting a nice run through the chicane. McGezin will lead that lap. And Dex McGezin getting the first lead of the day after qualifying on the pole. Now McGezin has a little bit of a gap between him and Barcode. Barcode has a little gap between him and Sean. Sean leading the other 4 cars behind. A nice fun little battle for the race lead right there. McGezin having his own little world right now. Just a little under a second in front of Barcode. Cool, calm, and elected Barcode sitting there in the second spot. Bobberts and Villa have fallen off just a little bit, but they're going to get to the bumper of one another. They're going to try to push each other to get back up to this fight. They've kind of come and gone throughout this race. And there goes Sean to the outside of Barcode. He has a run. Villa and Bobbert starting to fade. And Sean now to second. His teammate trying to do something there. Had to hit the brakes a little bit hard before getting into the back of Barcode for the moment. McGezin still just under a second in front of these guys. And they're not going to give up the good fight. 3 cars in the draft means 3 times the trouble, 3 times the speed. McGezin all alone right now at the front, but is doing fine, staying calm, staying collective. Now Barcode at the bumper of Sean, and they've got about a 10th or 2 trying to close in the gap on McGezin. McGezin clearing off the cones right there. No problem. That's going to slow him up for like 2.5 milliseconds. Now Sean closing the gap on McGezin. He's bringing a couple of friends with him. And if you're Villa and Bobberts, you're hoping that these guys get back into the fight. Further back is PTG Little Caesar behind them. 4 cars now back to the front, back to battling, back to work. And, you know, we saw a lot of this last week at Road America. We saw 2 of the top guys dueling. We saw the guys from the rear catch up to the guys to the front. And there's the battle for the race lead. Sean's going to take it back, but just wait a moment here. Dex McGezin trying to fight to the inside. Barcode trying to stay true to the guy he's been pushing. And Dex McGezin will hang on to the top spot. And Vinny, I don't know what DMG stands for, so if you could put that in the chat for me, I can answer that question. If it has something to do with the setup, let me know. Bobberts and Villa fading fast, fading into the distance of the top 4 drivers. They were in the fight, but they have found some trouble. They're going to need these guys to go back to battling, to get back into the fight. A lot of racing still to go, however. McGezin and Sean have gone back and forth for the race lead. Barcode has done everything he could to try to get by these guys, just can't seem to find the run, find the pass, find the moment. F1R Legrect has been pretty much battling with Barcode almost every other lap so far. So really the 2 guys at the front have been doing most of the battling. Barcode's been trying to find a way to get to the lead, and Legrec's just trying to find a way around Barcode. And Sean trying to keep close to McGezin. And Barcode in one of those little spots. We don't see him very much, not leading these things. You know, coming into the championship, this was the guy we've all been expecting to try to battle for a championship. currently doing a fantastic job leading in the points. But Dex McGezzin has been giving him a lot of speed, a lot of fight. And here is a problem for Barcode. It's Legrecht again. Legrecht looking to the inside of Barcode and powers on by for the third spot. F1R, Legrecht has finally gotten past his foe and looks to go for more, trying to track down his teammate and the man leading, McGezzin, at the front. But you can't say hey without saying bring it on, because here it comes as Barcode back to the bumper of Legrecht. And Barcode's been doing a lot of pushing. Now Sean's back up on McGezzin. Battle for the race leads back on once again as the two at the front are going at it. And you know, it's crazy to say, but Barcode hasn't been in a lot of these fights. The first week of the championship, he was pretty much all alone after McGezzin's wreck. Last week, had to fight through the field after a situation with McGezzin. And we thought McGezzin and Barcode would be dueling all season long, and they have. But not in the way that we would have expected, with Sean back to the lead. And it's been Sean doing a lot of noise these last 2 weeks. And McGezzin now to the rear bumper of Sean. Both F1R drivers leaving their respective rival. And, you know, if anything, I think McGezzin and Barcode are both pushing their guy. And Bobberts and Villa have faded. PTG Little Caesars behind them, but hasn't been able to really gain on them. Legrecht now looking to go get some more. And Legrecht's really come on, you know, this past 2 series. Unknown for me. Maybe not for some of you, but Legrecht has been really strong in just about everything we've put him in. You know, he went through a GT series that he's not comfortable with, had to do a lot of learning, and then, you know, when the season was getting built up to this championship, everyone said keep your eye on Legrecht if you knew him, and he's been no short of great. He's been very consistent, very strong. Villa getting by Bobberts for the 5th spot as the battle between these two guys continues on. Bobberts and Villa going to work, and Bobberts really flying through the corners there. Had to hit the brakes just a little bit not to get to the back of Villa. Don't want to take each other out, but man, Bobberts had a nice run there. And Villa and Bobberts just haven't seemed to get away from one each other. They spent most of their time working together, and they got to the front with the leaders, but then they had faded off in that little moment there where McGezzin was able to separate from the other 4 guys, and then 3 guys, I should say, that, you know, he's running with right now at the front. But Bobberts and Villa, I don't know if something had happened, and Bobberts looks like he's off the track. Bobberts was off the track, and Bobberts loses time on Villa. So back to the front of the pack. Dex McGezzin starting to chase down Sean once again for the race lead. Barcode starting to fade off into the distance with Legrecht leading in front of him. And this is not what you want to see from either driver if you're looking at the guys at the front of the pack. These are the guys that are dueling it out. You want them to be dueling it out so you get back into the mix. Right now they're outside the draft. And you want to be in that draft because you want to get an opportunity to keep up with those guys. And Sean's got to feel good. You know, Sean, again, you know, we talked about his rough go in the GT series, how he was really disappointed with his performance, his results, not being able to fight for his 3rd straight championship. Didn't have even a chance to defend it. And then he comes into the Protos, and, you know, I can recall some years back where Sean said, you know, I'm not that great in these cars, but he's always been pretty strong in them. And you know, we talk about the Barcode and Sean days, the duel between Rise Motorsports and Elusive Motorsports. You know, Barcode always had the edge in a lot of the races they've competed. And you know, these last couple of races, you know, after that rough go in the GT series, Sean has just been really strong and really consistent. And you know, we talked about that coming into this championship. What would Sean do after a really rough go in the GT series? Some guys were starting to write him off. Some people thought maybe he's in his head, maybe he's just overthinking it, and others thought, you know, maybe it's his time. You know, at some point as we age, we get slower, reaction times get slower, and some guy, like I said, some guys started to write him off. And Sean's done the opposite. He had a very quiet week 1 at IMS, running third, pretty much with no one to deal with. And then, you know, the Save gave him a little bit of a run. We haven't seen the Save since the first round. And then last week, Sean was just a monster at Road America. He took the lead. He got about over a second gap on these guys. McGezen trying to not die there. And then he defended for dear life. He fended off McGezen, Barcode, Legrecht, Pipes. And Pipes threw the whole kitchen sink at him and said, you know, I'm doing everything I can. I just can't get around him. And we've seen it so many times. And then the accident happened. Then Sean lost the lead. And McGezen had the lead. Barco had the lead. Barco had a mistake. McGezen didn't fuel the car enough. Sean would go on the win. And here he is, battling at the front, leading the pack, battling with one of the best in the business. And has made McGezen have to work not just offensively, but defensively. Every time McGezen's taken the lead, Sean's been able to find his way back to the front. And while we're talking about that, drivers going down pit road, ESP Barcode, the first of those drivers, he brings Cotillo and Mulder down pit road as well. Barcode goes as far back as 11th, but once we get through the cycle, he'll be back up in his spot. Meanwhile, Legrecht is all by himself and losing time on the leaders, and the battle for the race lead is what matters right now. It was a 6-car blanket for a moment, turned into a 4-car blanket, and now it's these two guys at the front. Plenty of racing still to go, 12 laps left, big track, lot to cover. And Mulder still in pit road. Okay, now he's getting out. Maybe he was a little bit further behind than the other two. Thought maybe he's just sitting in there. And McGezen's been real chill, real calm with Sean. Not overdriving the car. You know, we talked about McGezen's consistency in these championships. And looks like we might have lost somebody. Hopefully... Oh, ZR Montero. Out. Not sure if that was a disconnect or a personal matter. Tough break, first timer here at MEA. 14 drivers remain on the racetrack. Almost half the race is complete. And the battle for the race lead's pretty calm at the moment. You see Bobberts and Villa back there, and Bobberts was able to catch back up to Villa. That's pretty interesting. You know, we saw them on probably 2-3 laps ago, as Bobberts was trying to follow him for the first few turns. There goes McGezen out to the inside. McGezen goes for the race lead, gets sliding a little bit there, almost clips the inside of Sean. Sean now holds down to the inside, McGezen to the outside. They go side by side yet again, battling for the race lead. And McGezen will take that spot, no problem. New race leader, Dex McGezen, back to the front. And now Sean will have to follow him again. And Sean hasn't been as patient as McGezen. And right there he says, nah, I'm not doing that. Goes back to the inside for the race lead. Sean being aggressive. Putting all his eggs into a basket. And the thing with Sean is he's in a better position overall in the championship. You know, McGezen finished 6th last week at Road America after an issue with fuel. Had to pit at the very end of the race with 1 lap to go. Sean, on the other hand, goes on to win that race, has our 3rd place spot at IMS. And so Sean can be aggressive. But how aggressive do you want to be? Both drivers are coming down pit road now. F1R Legrecht as well, coming down the pit road. Bobberts and Villa also coming down to pit. So let's hop on with Barcode, who's going to be, I would assume this is going to bring every driver into the pits. Cranky's now in pit road. Houseman's now in pit road. Little Caesar as well. So pretty much everybody here, and I would expect the two guys in front of Barcode dueling here. That's Neb and Derluki battling for the 9th and 10th spots. They should be coming down pit road this time. Barcode's hoping they do, and they do. They're entering pit road as expected, and Barcode will go on by no problem. And Barcode now flying through the chicane, trying to get back into the fight. Both Sean and McGezin out of the pits. And Barcode's going to try to catch them as they both come out. Here comes Legrecht as well, and a pass for the 3rd spot. It's Barcode taking over the 3rd position. Now Barcode looking to track down the guys at the front. Meanwhile, those guys are back to dueling and back up to speed. So Barcode almost was able to make it work, but is going to have to find another way to get to these guys. And maybe Barcode's strategy is to pit a little bit earlier than these guys, but the problem that he has right now is he doesn't have a guy right on his bumper pushing him every lap. He does have Legrecht behind him now, but they're going to have to work together if they want to get up to the fight. And if you're just tuning in, welcome to round number 3 of the MEA Prototype Challenge here at Le Mans. I'm Steve, also known as SSR Mayhem, bringing you tonight's action. It's been nothing short, but pretty busy, as we've been watching an ongoing battle for the race lead since the opening laps. It was a 6-car battle, then Villa and Bobberts faded. It became a 4-car battle, Barcode faded, then Legrecht faded, and it's been all McGezin and Sean up to this point, and Sean leading the most laps of the race. And you know, this is the difference when we watch the two drivers attack one another. You know, we've watched McGezin be a lot more calm, as you see back behind them. Barcode getting passed again, or in the middle of getting passed by Legrecht. Legrecht not able to make it work off in the distance of these two. And you know, these drivers, they can talk to each other. It's not like they can't talk to each other. They're all in the same chat. They're all in the same driver, you know, channel. And if I was Barcode and I was Legrecht, I'd be talking, hey guys, look, you know, we're sitting here not really gaining anything. We're having our own race for the 3rd spot, not able to make up any time on these two up front. How about we work together? Who's a better passer? Who's a better leader? See if we can close the gap. Now McGezin looking to make a pass on Sean again. Sean not going to give it up easily. And Sean, you know, this is crazy. I'm not going to lie. I'm really enjoying the aggression by Sean. You know, if you asked me 3 or 4 years ago who was the most calmest guy on the racetrack, the most consistent guy out there, who just is patient, Sean would be the guy. Because there was nobody else back then that, you know, was calmer in the moment than Sean. And Sean has won, you know, multiple championships at MEA. He's got the Porsche RSR Cup. I believe that was back in 2021. He's a 2-time MEA GT Championship Series champion. He's had many. Oh no! Sean loses control. Dex McGezin to the race lead. New race leader, Dex McGezin. Sean goes around, losing control. And Barcode now to the 2nd spot. 3rd will go to Legrecht. Sean lost control of the car. Not sure if he's got damage. We're going to see if we can pull that up. No damage on the race car. He's got 2% transmission damage. A big moment in the championship fight. And Sean did not want that to happen. And it looked like Legrecht had some issue as well through that. I turned away for a moment and all I see is Sean going around. That's going to shake things up here, and I don't I don't know what's going on here. McGezin's also falling off. Did I miss more than just... Oh, that was a situation with McGezin as well. I do apologize. McGezin did get collected into that, and he has immense damage right now on the car. F1R Legrecht going on by for second. Sean going on by for third. Legrecht's got to limp this car all the way around the racetrack. Oh my goodness. Bobbert's going by. McGezin's just limping around the racetrack. 100% steering damage, 100% driveline, fuel. Villa trying to get a draft off McGezin. McGezin just needs to get this car to pit road. And the championship blows continue for dexterity driver McGezin, who highly expected to be in the championship fight. Is going to have to do a recovery race with the halfway point of the race and make an unscheduled pit stop. Meanwhile, F1R Sean, who's in the mix of that, is also lost a couple of spots, but did not get damaged from that point of the race. So McGezin falls as far back as 6th for the moment. New race leader, ESV Barcode, talked about consistency, patience, and just mayhem on lap 9. And no one probably saw that coming either. Nobody. I did not see that coming. And Sean and McGezin were doing such a great job not overdoing it. And the thing was, Barcode has not been the fastest car on the track. The 3 guys, well, at this point, guy down 7th. I mean, Legrecht, Sean, McGezin have all been faster than Barcode throughout this race. You know, Barcode was 4th. Well, it was 3rd at that moment, but I mean, he's been running 4th most of the race, battling with Legrecht for 3rd. And McGezin just hanging on. And he's going to be coming down the pit road here very soon. And what a horrible spot to make that happen. Here he comes down the pit road. Dexterity driver McGezin going to bring his car to pit road and see what they can get set up after a gut-wrenching hit. Meanwhile, F1R driver Legrecht is going to have to try to chase ESV Barcode down. And Legrecht's been faster than Barcode when it came to the draft. He's been outside the draft looking on, but he's been able to gain time on Barcode. Sean has also gained a few tenths since the incident. He's got 2% transmission damage. Meanwhile, Bobberts and Villa, they probably wish they were there because they were in the fight early on. And if you're just tuning in, we're just over the halfway point of the race. F1R Sean and dexterity driver McGezin get into a heated duel, which ultimately ended up Sean and McGezin getting together. McGezin with damage on the race car. Sean would go around. He saved the car from pure destruction, but got 2% transmission damage, falling back to the 3rd spot. Meanwhile, dexterity driver McGezin had to make an unscheduled stop, going around the entire racetrack limping, has dropped back to 14th and is going to have to recovery drive at this point of the race. Meanwhile, F1R Legrecht and Sean are trying to now track down ESV Barcode, who has not had the strongest car in this race. Barcode has been the 4th best driver all race long, but now the drivers are out of the draft. Barcode was 3rd fastest in qualifying. So right now, we're about to find out who has the best overall pace. 9 laps to go here at Le Mans. mayhem at the front of the two lead drivers. Sean did not need that to happen. We were in the middle of talking about Sean's past to now, how he's been such a consistent driver in the past with patience, and then he's been nothing but lights out since last week at Road America. And I turned my head for half a second. I come back around, Sean spun out. I saw Megezin go by, assuming that he was fine. And then Barco would take the lead. We found out that Megezin had all sorts of damage. And it's ESV Barcode at the front. So let's go through the field now, starting with the defending champion and current race leader, ESV Barcode. Currently leading his first couple of laps in this race, hasn't led a lap up to this point. Barcode now looking to lead the third lap of the race for himself. Meanwhile, F1R Legrecht has been nothing but a thorn in Barcode's side all race long. Not sure how Legrecht had lost so much time. I would assume the incident with Sean Megezin had pushed him back, trying to avoid something, or something had happened. He has been better than Barcode throughout the race, but now is in a situation where he has to track him down. Meanwhile, last week's winner, F1R Sean, has led pretty much all the laps in this race, but a few to Megezin. Now finds himself sitting in the third spot with 2% transmission damage. Meanwhile, ESV Bobberts and ZR Villa have been dealing with each other since the start of the race. This is the most spread out they've been probably in the last few laps. They've been, they were in the fight for the lead, then they faded off, and now they find themselves kind of like, okay, these guys messed up, let's try to make this work. But the problem is they're no longer racing with each other, which means they're no longer drafting each other. Now as we go down, ZR Cranky has been running pretty much in the mid-pack, the upper mid-pack, running 6th overall. PTG Houseman in 7th. PTG Houseman having a good race here today. You know, this is something that we've seen a lot more of from the man of the house. Meanwhile, Dexterity driver Gatillo has recovered since the beginning of the race. Gatillo had fallen back as far as 13th at one point in this one. Now has recovered into the top 10, running 8th for the moment. Then it's last week's first time top 5 finisher, PTG Lil Caesar, running in that 9th position. Caesar was running in the top 6 behind Villa and Bobberts, but now finds himself a lot further back. Not sure what had happened to PTG Lil Caesar. I do know that I think he stretched it out more than the other drivers did during the pit cycle. Meanwhile, ZR Darluki is currently under fire. Darluki goes around! Darluki gets the car off the ground! And as we hop on board with ZR Darluki, he clips the grass, goes around, and loses a spot to PTG Neb. Let's find out if he got damage from that. He didn't. A good save by the ZR driver. Darluki almost lost it, almost was up in the air, and it would have been the second time this season we were on board with an incident of a car flipping. Last week it was Pipes who went up in the air, and definitely a moment. So now he's running 11th, was in a battle with this man PTG Neb, who's currently running in the 10th spot, just took it over as we hopped on with Darluki, who spun around, almost flipping. And then it's the newcomer, RX Mulder, in the 12th position. Mulder had qualified at the back of the field, but has got a few spots since then. Then it's the pole sitter, Dexterity driver Megezin. Dex Megezin, who got the pole, has been battling up front with Sean. Both of them finding the issues here about the midway point. I don't want to say late because we're not at the late stages yet, but both got into some trouble battling for the lead. Megezin got the raw end of the deal. I kind of missed it. You guys didn't, but no one's really telling me anything different, so I must have been pretty accurate what had happened when I turned my head back. But when we look back, Megezin had full damage. We were watching Sean spin around as if he missed the apex. And so Megezin's basically doing a recovery drive. And SSR Quinn having another tough week back in 14th. Hasn't really found his stride, but happy to be out there representing his team as he overshoots the corner, trying to just hang on for dear life. And then ZR Montero is out with a disconnect, we do believe. So that would be that. And Sean still fighting the race car right now. Still trying to figure his stride back out. So this race went from being extremely competitive to a two-car duel to now it's all spread out. However, Sean's catching up to his teammate. You gotta wonder if they're communicating at all. I know Sean can't talk, but if Legrec's talking, then maybe they got a plan. But if Legrec's talking, then Barcode knows because they're all in the same group together, unless they're muting each other. But closing the gap on his teammate. Battle for the second spot here at Le Mans. Two teammates going at it. Two teammates trying to win a team championship. They should be leading the team category after last week. We don't have the updated points yet. Again, that was more on me this week than it was Kart Racer, who does our points. I had to give it to him late because we were looking at some stuff. But the F1R drivers now have to make a decision. Do we work together or do we not work together? Sean with 2% transmission damage. Legrec kind of out of sorts right now. You see Barcode right there, but they got to go through the S here. And Legrec's just... Yeah, if I was Sean, I would just get on by his teammate at this point. It's going to do you no favors. Sean, who was the fastest in qualifying, or second fastest in qualifying, I do apologize. Now back to the second spot. And the thing is they've lost more time, and they're going to keep losing time if they battle like this. I mean, you don't want to do too much of that. I know you're racing for your own points, and I know you want to be your own guy, but you both have shown that you've been better than Barcode in the first several laps in this race. You've been the faster of the two. You've been the faster of those three drivers. You're kind of out of sorts right now, so you might be over driving the race car. But you gotta work together right now if you can, if you can maintain that consistency. They were as far back as about 7-8 seconds. And they've lost another couple seconds to Barcode, who is apparently cruising right now. I want to hop on with him, but it looks like Legrec's not done with his teammate just yet. They're battling and they're fighting and they're. I mean, I guess we're gonna get a second place battle between these two guys for the moment. And Barcode pitted earlier than everybody else. He pitted, I think, 2 laps earlier. I think lap, I don't know if it was 5. It was probably lap 6 or 7 when he came down. And Barcode was losing a bunch of time to McGezin and Sean. Don't know how much that's going to affect him, and you got to think maybe he's going to run a little bit longer than his first go. Meanwhile, Sean and Legrec are just losing time, and they're just battling each other. And I'd love to see these guys try to work together to get back to Barcode. But you also don't know what the competitor mind is. I mean, these guys might have talked about, we're here to race, and if you're gonna battle with me, we're gonna battle. But both drivers, well, not Legrec. Legrec's gonna stay out on the race. So Barcode and Sean pitting together, that gives F1R Legrec the race lead. Not leading the lap, but we'll get the race lead. He might have led the lap, I don't know. We couldn't see where Barcode really was. So maybe he led that lap. Bobberts will stay out, Villa will stay out. Looks like everyone else is electing to stay out. And when Barcode did this last time, he brought in some guys at the tail of the field, like Derluki and Mulder. I think one of the other PTG guys had come down, but only about 3-4 drivers came to pit road. And it looks like this time no drivers are going to come to pit road. And Barcode's coming out 5th, Sean's coming out 9th. And that means Barcode's going to have to deal with more traffic. Now that could work out for Sean. He could get in some of the other drivers' draft. Barcode's, I think he's pretty much by himself right now, and he is. So if Barcode's by himself, and Sean could maybe use some of the draft to get a little bit closer. I mean, he's about 11 seconds back from Barcode when they entered pit road. Could it help? Maybe. But if I'm Barcode, I'm cruising. And we know, McGezzin and Sean were going for it all because, first and second are 10-point difference. So when you win the race, you got 10 points over the guy in second. And those are big points right now, and it's going to be an interesting drive, to say the least here. And McGezzin, he's the least. I mean, he didn't even get to pass these guys during pit road, and we would have expected that. I mean, he had so much damage coming around, and as we hop on here with Sean, back in 9th after pitting. F1R Grect had stayed out on the racetrack, and let's go through the field again. We so at this point, Barcode and Sean had entered pit road. F1R Grect currently leads here, and he's got a nice gap, as you just saw. Bobberts make the corner in second. Bobberts has got a pretty good gap now on Villa, who's been. He did a great job. I mean, they were battling for the lead. So it wasn't like he was losing time already. I think something had happened and they both kind of had to, kind of settle where they were. But Roberts has distanced himself since then. LeGrec comes down pit road. There's Cranky in 4th. Didn't mean to pass Villa. We were just talking about Villa. Villa got wide there. These guys are now coming down pit road. Houseman behind Barcode. And then Gatillo's right behind him. Let's stay on board with Gatillo, see if he makes a pit stop this time. I would assume a lot of these guys from are going to. Gatillo will come down pit road. Little Caesar's gonna follow. I would assume Neb and Derluki and Miguez are wrong Gatillo. What am I doing? I don't know why I said I seen McGezzin. Let's stay on board with McGezzin. See if he hits this time. My apologies again. I've made 2 critical mistakes and McGezzin almost saw the sand. Barcode goes back to the race lead. PTG Houseman stays out on the racetrack. And McGezzin would stay out, and you gotta think McGezzin's gonna stay out probably as long as he can, because why wouldn't you? You lost all these spots. You had a bad situation, you and Sean. Houseman, I don't know what Houseman's strategy is, honestly. I would assume he's got a pit, but he might stay out to see if he can collect a couple more spots. And there's Sean and LeGrec behind him, and they're battling. Again, like, this doesn't help you. When it's not your teammate, I would say, okay, boys at it. But, when you're... this started 4 laps or so ago where these two were together. You think, okay, you're my teammate, we're behind, we show them some more speed, maybe we work together, try to use the draft to help us out, because the one thing we're seeing way differently since Sean and McGezzin's situation is how guys are racing. We, in the first half of the race, whether it was Barcode pushing LeGrec or McGezzin pushing Sean, they were nose to tail and they were getting a lot of speed on from that. now, ever since that situation has happened, when we have seen guys together, it's been battle, 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 battle. But the other thing too is I don't know if Legrecht and Sean can hook up the same way as Barcode and McGezin were to them, from behind. So it's, and you also could take into consideration maybe they've kind of said, okay, we're not racing for the race win, so let's race each other and make the most of it. And they are slowly but surely creeping up on Houseman now. Houseman is on older stuff. I don't know if Houseman can go the whole way, but I do think that if he can, he might stretch it out for good, points. We'll have to see here. Ooh, Houseman almost lost the car. You see two guys behind you coming. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You definitely got to come to pit road. They're coming too fast. You're not maintaining a certain speed. And there goes Houseman down pit road. And now we're back to reality. And here's the thing. Sean has caught 3 seconds up to Barcode. So that's what I was waiting for. The gap between him and Barcode since the pit stop. If you're going to catch the leader, you need to go out and work with your teammate here. That's the only way to do it. You got about 3 laps before you see a white flag, the final lap of the race. You need to get out there and you need to work together. But again, I don't know if Legrecht can work with his teammate the same way as a couple of other drivers have been able to do with each other. And that's the big question mark. And as of right now, I'm going to say no. They're not going to be able to pull off because they're not running close enough to make that happen. So yeah, and Legrecht's actually losing Sean this time. I'm gonna ask Barcode at the end of this race if he wins. If it remains the way it is now, he's gonna say, the draft was really strong, and this is my guess. He's going to say the draft was really strong, didn't have a great car for the draft. The misfortunes of Sean and McGezin. I was able to see myself at the front and kind of just run my own race. And I feel like that's all he's going to say. I truly think if Sean and, McGezin don't have that scenario happen, they'd still be in the lead. They were that much stronger than Legrecht and Barcode were. And Barcode was struggling against Legrecht because of the draft. And there they are in the distance. You see them back behind them. And McGezin moving forward. McGezin's still moving forward. That's crazy. He's got an older set of tires back here battling for 6th right now. Maybe he did pit. I don't think so, though. His fuel's low. I don't know. I think he's gonna have to pit again, but who am I to question that? Did we lose another driver? We might have lost another driver here. Ooh, ZR DeLucchi, and DeLucchi's had 2 races this season with the same scenario. Not sure what happened. So right now your top 5 look like Barcode, Sean, Legrecht, Bomberts, and Villa. Dex McGezin has found himself into 6th right now as he's fending off Cranky, who he had recently just passed. As we stay on board of the battle, now Cranky looks to the outside. Cranky now to the inside. McGezin's gonna hold on. Oh, looks like he got a little bit of a rear tap from Cranky there. Miguez looks like he's finally starting to get away from Cranky, but I don't know if he has enough gas in the car. Man, it's gonna be nice. Yeah, he's coming down pit road. Sean, on the other hand, might have something here for Barcode. He's closing the gap and closing it quick. Okay, maybe not quick, but he's closing the gap. As we hop back on board with race leader ESV Barcode. Now Cranky's up to 6th. He's moved up 9 positions since the start of this race. Now he did start at the tail of the field, misqualifying, but still impressive nonetheless. You're dealing with draft. You're dealing with a lot of guys that have kind of seen the track already. Now this is our Quinn. That's a bold strategy. 1 pit stop, staying out on the racetrack. So we're gonna see the gap again, see if Sean's still catching or not. I mean, Sean's still catching him. He's right there off in the distance. I mean, he's got a great shot still at this. If Sean can put something together where he can knock off maybe 5/10 or so per lap, he might have a chance. He's gonna need a little bit more than that probably, but it might be close. The way that this is starting to unfold, it looks like Sean might have found a rhythm a little bit. Legrec's no longer pressuring him from behind. Meanwhile, Bobberts and Villa rounding out your top 5. They haven't seen a whole lot of action since their separation as well. Barco getting every bit of that inside corner there. He's trying to. Oh, Mulder had backed out, it looks like. So now we're down to 12 drivers on the racetrack. So let's go back through the field again. It's ESV Barcode leading this race. There's Sean trying to track him down, and Sean's gaining time. So we'll find out if Sean can get to him. Then it's F1 Lara Legrect in 3rd, who's lost the draft with his teammate Sean, and Sean is taken off from him and says, "Look, man, I gotta, if we're gonna get to the front, you ain't gonna work with me. I gotta check out." And Sean's done exactly that. Meanwhile, ESV Bobberts running 4th. Hasn't had to deal with a whole lot since ZR Villa faded off him, and Villa is not even in the picture yet. As there he is, finally getting into the chicane. And Villa's done a really good job today. He's kept himself pretty much top 5 all race. Was running 6th, a good portion of it early on with Bobberts and him battling, trying to keep up the pack. Then his teammate, ZR Cranky, is actually catching him. So there is that. And Cranky started all the way back in, 13th? So, or maybe 15th. 14th or 15th, actually. So Cranky's moving. He's a cranky driver. Meanwhile, Dex Gatillo back in 7th. Gatillo had to recover, had a rough go in the early stages. He's had a kind of a rough go these first few races. And he's got a couple of PTG guys coming from behind, PTG Houseman and PTG Little Caesar, looking to put some pressure on Gatillo. So we'll keep track of these 3 here in the closing moments. And then your pole sitter, Dex Magezin, fell back as far as well, dead last, 14th actually at the time Matera was already out, and has found himself back into the top 10, but definitely not what you wanted to see here for the Dexterity driver if you're cheering them on. PTG Neb in 11th, and the last car in the lead lap and still out on the track is SSR Quinn. So those guys still trying to go at. Sean has lost pursuit to Barcode. He's actually lost 6/10 since the last time we've seen him. So possibly the end of days as we hop back on board with ESV Barcode, your race leader and defending champion. You know, you talk about this race and how it's unfolded, and like Design has said there into the chat, you know, what a heartbreak. And you know, I'm not even gonna say heartbreak for just Sean, and you know, I know that's Design's driver over there at Friends First Racing, but heartbreak again for McGezin, who's had 3 races, 3 great qualifyings, and has found no success from those great qualifyings. You know, and I talk about Dex McGezin, who, you know, we'll hop on board with him while we're talking about him here. And, you know, McGezin came in as a favorite, and, you know, this result here today is going to possibly hurt his championship hopes, at least for the title. But again, this is the halfway point of the season, but, you know, if we recap it, week 1, you know, we talked about it earlier. Qualified great at IMS, just got beat out by Barcode, took the race lead early on. McGezin would eventually lose control of the car around lap 6 or 7, but fall back to 6, be able to recover, finish second. You know, so though he had a tough break in that race, he was able to recover to finish runner-up to Barcode, who won at that race. Then last week, McGezin fell back to about 3rd, 4th, or 5th. He was kind of sitting there for a while. Found himself back into the fight up front, and then all of a sudden Pipes goes around, loses control, gets across McGezin gets across the Grecht, or vice versa. They end up into an accident. Then the caution comes out. They got to recover from that. However, that didn't help McGezin late, and Sean would go on to win that race. And you know, McGezin would finish, I believe it was 8th last week, because he had to pit at the last second of the race. And you know, during the pit stop, a couple guys did not get enough fuel in the car, ESV Pipes being one of them, Dex McGezin being the other one of them. And then here he is today, pole sitter, and gets into it with Sean, or whatever had happened. I have to go back through it again. I missed it because I turned away for half a second. I turn around, Sean's spinning around, and then McGezin was going to the lead, and then all of a sudden Barcode passed McGezin, and then we found out that McGezin had damage everywhere. So not the season that McGezin was hoping for, but McGezin's a competitor. He's staying out, fighting for his teammate, fighting for the team standings. And you know, F1R right now has got that team championship, you know, looking good right now at the halfway point of the season after tonight. Both drivers running 2nd, 3rd have been doing a great job staying in the top 5 all season. And then you ever go to the Sean, you know, Sean, this would be heartbreak for Sean. Sean definitely had the pace, you know, had the great race last week, was being one of just the guys that were just super, you know, racing a way that we don't expect. And you know, I think that also played an effect here tonight, because you know, he was running so hard, and you know, I was talking about the differences between him and McGezin was being a lot more patient in this race. Sean, on the other hand, wasn't as patient. He was basically running the way he ran last week. You gotta wonder if those two mixes ended up putting them in the position they were at the time of the wreck, but we'll never know as Barcode continues to lead with 1 lap to go here in Le Mans. So here we come around in just a couple of turns. Barcode will be going for a second win on the season, and I wonder if he felt that he had a car to win today. If we look back at the beginning of this race, Barcode, it's the same story with him and Legrecht. Legrecht was not strong at all either. The F1R drivers seemed to have a good advantage on the straights, but it really was between Sean and McGezen, and Bobberts and Villa were behind, Legrecht and Barcode, and Legrecht, they couldn't get around those two. So, and Legrecht couldn't get around Barcode for the longest time, and they finally did. And Barcode was losing time on Legrecht, and then something, that's the question mark. What happened to Legrecht? Because he was really doing a good job keeping Barcode at bay. Now, what we do gotta remember, guys, is Barcode pitted 2 laps earlier than his competitors, and he was able to get by Legrecht because of that. Now, Legrecht was able to stay in his draft after the pit cycle, so it wasn't like Legrecht was out of it right away, but Barcode did not have the best drive early on, but when guys make mistakes, you gotta continue on, and that bears the question with what had happened to McGezen and Sean. Was their situation a safety car worthy? It's those drivers' duty when they're in an accident to call the situation. Now, here's the problem with Sean and McGezen is I don't think McGezen talks a whole lot, and Sean isn't on the headset or mic. So, possible conversation after the race, I don't know. Again, I missed it, so I couldn't make that call in the moment. That could be on me, but it's just as much the driver's responsibility. And also, Legrecht and Barcode could have called it. So we'll not know what had happened or how it could have happened, or if that could have been the difference factor of the race. But we'll have to hear from the drivers after this race. And if anything, if there was a missed call in that moment, it would be more on me than anything, because I was on the battle. Now, we have a battle in the back of the pack between Gatillo and Houseman for 7th and 8th. Oh, and we got Little Caesar in the mix, so let's hop on board with these guys. As we pull up the race map to keep track of Barcode. Oh my gosh. We might, if I don't lose track of time here, or track of my buttons. A 3-car battle for 7th, 8th, and 9th to the PT drivers with the Dex driver. Gatillo trying to fend off 2 for 1 special. And they're going to try and make it 3 wide. Little Caesar to the inside, Houseman to the outside, Gatillo in the middle. It's a PTG sandwich. Who's going to give up? Who's going to give in? They're going to go 3 wide? No, Gatillo says, I ain't doing that. And, gets to the back bumper of Houseman. Houseman in the Caesar. Caesar around. Caesar into the wall. Caesar in trouble. Houseman and Gatillo stay out. Final lap of the race. Barcode wins at Le Mans. Sean 2nd, 3rd, Legrecht. 4th, Lee Bobberts. And it's not over, and they're still bumping and banging. And Gatillo gonna get in front. Post-race interviews coming up next. And Gatillo is just sitting there. Not sure. Oh my gosh. And Caesar spinning out. I'm thinking he's waiting for Caesar. But I think he's putting blame on himself and he's just getting, yeah, they're just helping each other across the line. Gatillo didn't like how he finished that up. Well, I already got one interview response, and that'd be from Sean. So again, post-race interviews coming up next here at MEA. Stay tuned. And yeah, we'll get Bobberts, we'll get Legrect, we'll get Barcode, and we'll get Villa as well. Forget about Villa. So Villa is also getting an interview. That final result at the bottom is not right, but regardless, post-race interviews coming up next here at MEA. Stay tuned. Again, post-race interviews coming up next. We're just waiting for the drivers to get in, and then we'll go from there. So, screen might black out for a second, guys, but it's just me inviting the guys, so just stay tuned. Good. And we got Bobberts in here. We just need to get a couple other guys in here. And Bobberts, if you can do that for me, Barcode's in. We just need Legrect and Villa as well. So those are the only two guys we need. We already have Sean's interview. It's very blunt and expected, but we'll get to that soon. And we're gonna have questions for the people watching on. Legrect's waiting for the party invite. That's. So again, post-race interviews coming up here. We got Barcode, we got Greg, Bobbert. So while we wait for those guys, we'll take a look at the results. ESV Barcode winning here at Le Mans. And if you guys are wondering what happened to my audio when I have to type to invite people here, it cuts out everything. The screen, the audio. Yeah, so it's just, that's what happens. That's what happens every week when I do that. The bottom three results isn't correct. It would be Mulder, then Derlucci, then Montero. Derlucci and Montero, I do believe, had disconnect issues, but again, you'll never know, as we're just waiting for one more driver, F1R Legrecht, and while we wait for that, we'll just go straight to the guy that doesn't have a mic for us, and there's Legrecht now, but we're going to talk about Sean here real quick and just get his thoughts and whatnot from this race. And Sean immediately sent to me, where'd it go? Well, there it is. He said, got killed from the lead. Don't think it was intentional, but ruined any chance of winning and leading the championship. Nothing more to say. I went on to try to ask him some more questions about pace. He said, yeah, I had the pace, and it wasn't easy to find, but obviously doesn't matter now. And so we could definitely assume that the frustrations from that incident with Magazine, well, definitely took his mood out of it and possibly his pace, and that's probably why we didn't see a whole lot of gain on Barcode at the end that Sean had been so strong on. You get into a situation like that, and sometimes it could just take everything out of you, and Sean would finish second overall here today after winning last week, but, heartbreak for Sean for sure, as Legrecht looks like he's still having issues here. Now, while we go ahead and try to get him back in again, Boberts, if you can. But we're going to get you guys going here in Villa, Barco. I know Barco and Boberts know the drill. Just make sure that your guys' audio is all checked off so that guys on stream can hear you. And we're going to start with you, ZR Villa. And Villa, I believe it's your first time here competing in the MEA, in any MEA series, and I know that you got some of your drivers with you as well. You guys just began running in this series, and today you got a top 5, finishing 5th overall. My questions for you, you and Bobbers were showing some decent pace early on in this one, had been able to kind of fight your way into the mix of the top 5. You guys were running 1 through 6 at one point. It seemed like you and Bobbers were struggling to get by Barcode and Legrecht early on, and then you guys kind of had your own race. Take us through that.
Yes, thank you for the invite first, and thank you for the series. It's going well. And I started with Bobbert, and my race was just trying to stay in the top. And I think at some point Bobbert did the same, just trying to stay in the top because his car was fast in the straight line, but it was slower in the SS at the end. So we tried to stay with the front group, but it was impossible at a certain point. So yeah, that was all my race, trying to stay in the top.
And Villa, did you guys did you kind of have to make a decision in the moment that you guys weren't catching the front cars anymore, so you guys started battling with each other? You were able to get by Bobberts a couple of times, but he was able to get right back in front of you. What was the difference for you guys dueling it out, fighting for position?
Yeah, so Bobbert's car was much faster in the straight line, and I was much faster in the turns. So I was trying to stay ahead of him in the SS, and he just overtook me in the straights every time. So that was our little game, our little fun, but nothing more we can do.
Well, nonetheless, congratulations on 5th overall. It was a fun race to watch, and I know you guys are having a heck of a battle, but 3 more races to go, a lot still to work for, but again, congratulations on a top 5 finish.
Yeah, thank you.
And that was ZR Villa, ladies and gentlemen, finishing 5th overall. Now we're going to move up to, so correct, we're still waiting to get in. Are you still trying to get him in, Bobberts?
Yeah, it's a restart.
Okay, so we'll wait on Legrecht anyways because he's after Bobberts. But we're going to talk to Bobberts. And Bobberts, same situation. Kind of like the same questions for you and Villa. You guys were up there battling in the top 6. You guys found striking distance. What was the difference between you two? Because you guys worked together. You guys were really trying to keep up with the pack. You get there a couple times. Barcode and Greg were battling it out, but it just seems like you guys couldn't get an opportunity to get by those guys to kind of be in the mix of things.
Yeah, I mean, even though I did get engine damage in that first stint, I had 1% engine damage, then it increased to 1.3 towards the end of the stint. Don't know how I managed to do that, but either way, not using that as the excuse, the pace just wasn't quite there compared to the top four. Obviously, at the time being, obviously, Sean, Greg, McGezin, and Barcode, so... Yeah, I kind of knew it was going to be a bit difficult to stick with them. I just tried to do it as best as I could, but obviously, like I said, yeah, the engine damage certainly didn't help matters. And then obviously, when I lost the draft, it was just a case of, well, this is just going to be it. I'll just see what I could do with Villa. Obviously, he stuck with me, and we did overlap at a few different points. But I think, when I got rid of the engine damage and like I said, had no issues with it in the second and third stints, then I was able to pull the gap. And I know he went into cockpit view for that last stint near enough, which he was, just because he'd lost the draft to me and wasn't going to catch me, so he was just having some fun, I think. So yeah, it was a bit quiet, a bit boring, obviously, for the second half of the race for sure. But yeah, it is what it is.
Bobbert, you guys faded off pretty quick when you guys were no longer were able to keep up with those guys. Was it because you guys were having issues working together? You guys battling? What made you guys lose the pack before you guys kind of had to start battling each other?
Well, like I said, obviously the engine damage was some of it, but Barcode and I, we were running a completely different wing setup to the majority, or if not the whole rest of the field. So, we were much quicker down the straights, but we lost too much time through the S's, obviously through the Porsche curbs in the last sector, so it kind of killed us, really. Obviously, didn't, I know Barco got a little lucky, but you take those wins obviously when they get given to you. So obviously congrats to him. But yeah, no, the last sector, because I mean the middle part and even arguably going through Indianapolis or Narge, I was actually quicker, I think, than the F1R lot in particular, obviously. But it's like I said, the last sector just killed us, just lost too much time, and once you lose the draft, that's it. It's game over.
And then, you and Villa ended up having a battle yourselves. You guys were kind of dueling for a while. Villa would get the best of you. You get the best of Villa. And, you talked about the engine damage. I don't know if that was part of your guys' battles, but eventually you would be able to get back by Villa and kind of spread the gap in your guys' duel.
Yeah, like I said, it was just a case of once I got rid of the engine damage, it was case of just pull the gap, and like I said, managed to do that. I think Villa made a bit of a mistake, which just sealed the deal, really. So it was just a case of just keep it on track and just make it to the finish, essentially. And thankfully managed to do that. So I mean, lucky to be P4, really. Should really be P5, obviously, but McGezin had his big incident, slash issue, and so yeah, I'll take a 4th place. Don't get me wrong, but need to do obviously a bit more work for the second half of the season.
Well, obviously, work to be done, and it's good to have you back, Bart. We know you missed last week, and now you and your teammate can fight for the team championship. But as of now, top 5 result, 4th overall. Congrats on that, and we'll see you next week. Actually, I'll see you on Monday, so we got a show to run, but I'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you.
That was ESV Bobberts, ladies and gentlemen, 4th overall in a fightly duel with Villa. Both drivers giving a great performance. Now let's move up to F1R Legrecht, who's was kind of a thorn in the side of our defending champion. And Legrecht, you came out swinging, and just make sure that your audio's checked off. I know you've had issues with that in the past. But take us through the beginning moments of the race. I mean, you gave Barcode everything he could handle. We know the draft is strong. We know that it plays a factor. But it seemed like you had the better car when it came to that style of racing. And you were able to keep with him. You were able to get back to him. He'd take it back from you. And both you and Sean were very aggressive in this race. Where Barcode and McGezin would sit behind you guys chose the path of, well, we might be in war. So take us through that, because there's a lot of aggressive driving early on.
Yeah, I feel like we genuinely had, obviously, given McGezin made his mistake, I believe that we probably could have secured a 1-2 if it wasn't for my mistake earlier on. It was a great kind of battle, especially in the first few laps. But as Robert's explained, I think the ASV boys were running a completely different aero setup to everyone else. I don't think it made that much difference on the straights, but it definitely impacted them in the corners. So Barcode couldn't carry quite as much speed through Porsche curves, and obviously we all know Barcode is as fast as he is. I was expecting the car to be carrying more corner speed than it actually was, so I had to brake mid corner, and it spun me. I would rather spin myself than take him out by mistake. So I just had to take evasive action basically.
And I was going to bring that up to you. You were the guy behind the big incident with McGezzon and Sean. What did you see from that point of view? And obviously, you said you had to take a course of action. It kind of all happened together. I missed it, and you might have mentioned there as well, but I had turned my head for half a second. I turn back. I see Sean spinning off the edge. I see McGezzon moving forward, then getting passed by Barcode, and then you're nowhere to be found. Can you take us through the whole thing, what you saw, what you were going through, and just how that all unfolded?
So I braked in Porsche curves and then ended up in that gravel trap. By the time I'd got round, I was passing Sean as he was speeding back up, so I didn't say anything either. I have been told there was contact, and MGezzon has apologised for it, so I do believe there is blame to be made, but he has already apologised for the contact, so but I didn't say anything myself either.
Yeah, that was the big question mark. Should a caution, a safety car have been called in the moment? I feel like I'm at fault for not getting to see the whole thing unfold, because all I got to see was Sean going around. I did not see the contact, and it's kind of a weird situation for those guys, right? Because neither one of them can talk.
No.
Right? So at that point, it's you or Barcode who can kind of see it, or myself, because I can come off the comms and get into the chat and bring it out. But I didn't want to make that call because I didn't get to see it in full, and I didn't want to make a bad call. So if anybody, I apologize for not being fully set in the moment as well. But some things happen that are out of control. We know that the safety car rule is a brand new rule in MEA, so it's a lot for us to get into. But it's hard to make that decision, because of all those factors. But then you were able to get into the fight with Sean. You and Sean obviously tangled for a while, and I got to ask you. Sean was very blunt. I know that he was really upset about how it ended up for him, but you guys were battling. You guys weren't working together. I definitely, I know you like to rewatch the stream, so you're gonna hear me talk about it, but I was questioning your guys' strategy. Your two teammates. You guys are both battling. Not just individually, but in the team championship. Why wasn't there more working together? Use the draft, try to get some speed on, and catch Barcode with several laps to go. Or was it just one of those things where you guys couldn't connect together very well, or was it just neither one was really getting a hint that we should work together?
No, we were working together. I was trying to give him a side draft. I wasn't overtaking him. I knew that Sean is higher up in the independent championships, so I knew. He pitted a lap earlier than he should have in the final stint, so I knew his tyres were going to wear off, and he went to back off our field because I think he was going to say or you how the place, but no, I was fully aware that I was going to have Sean finish in front regardless. I slowed down and gave him the 3-second gap to try and work together to get that slip to try and catch Barcode. But no, there was no battling whatsoever. It was just trying to give him a side draft. And
yeah, so obviously, I didn't know that. It looked like you guys were battling more than anything. But I gotta ask you too. Maybe this would be a final question for you, but the GT series, you showed a lot of pace and something that you're not used to. This is something that you're a little bit more acquainted with. Do you feel a lot more home with this type of style of racing? What's been so successful for you? You've been in the fights, you've been in the battles, you were in the battles last week. How do you feel going into the second half of the season, and where do you feel like you might have an opportunity to catch up and maybe get into the fight for the title?
Strong, to be honest. The practice sessions through the week that we've been having, I've noticed a pattern where during the week my pace isn't quite there, but as soon as the race comes, that's when my pace just comes out of nowhere. So it was the same last week as well, in the 963s. So yeah, I do feel like we're doing better than even I anticipated, to be honest. But I'm certainly not going to complain about that. So I think so far, the GTs and the Pro Tours, it's been a solid couple of results, to be honest. So hopefully more of the same.
Well, nonetheless, third overall tonight. We know that you're in the mix of the fight. Just got to put a couple of components together, and you might be able to snag one of these in the second half of the season. But congratulations, top three, third overall. A lot to look forward to going ahead. So congrats to you.
Thanks, Dave.
F1R Legrecht finishing third, and then there's Sean. We got to talk to him, and Sean got back to me just very out of it mentally right now. And it's something that we didn't know is Sean was fuel saving at the end of the race, ladies and gentlemen. That's why he was no longer able to close the gap between him and Barcode. So the whole incident, the mentality, a lot takes you out in those moments, and Sean having the fuel save late. So that answers that question that we were curious about. But nonetheless, the man of the hour, the guy that's looking to go for the three-peat, first time ever in the Prototype Challenge, still got plenty of work to do, but second time this season, ESV Barco. Barco, welcome back to the winner's circle, and this one, a lot different than wins for you in the past. You know, we've talked about it before. You've been able to dominate in series past. This championship has been kind of a fight for you, and today was a very different story. You were falling back as far as fourth. It didn't seem like you had the car to keep with these guys, at least in the first half of the race. And then trouble for Sean McGezin, able to get the race lead. Issues for Legrecht. You were able to maintain about a 8 second gap. It had to be a kind of a roller coaster ride for you because it didn't seem like anything was going your way.
No, quality was made. I could have had pole, but messed up my last 2 laps that really mattered. Then come the race, kind of 2-3 laps in, I kind of realised that the lower aero really wasn't working at all. It didn't really gain me enough on the straights to, like, you know, really outweigh the cornering disadvantage I had, and it was looking pretty dire at that point. Like, if you take out the slipstream, I was pretty much settled 4 miles back, but yeah, a lot of luck brought me here.
And I got to ask you about the moment. You decided to pit earlier than the other guys. I don't know if that was planned or that was just, hey, I'm going to take a shot at this, see if I can catch up with some fresher tires. What was the reason for the earlier pit, or was it expected for you in the moment?
Oh, I was always pitting that early. I was always going to pit. I did lap 6, then do another 6, then do a 7. That was the plan from the start.
And, you know, when you made that pit stop, it seemed to benefit you quite a bit. You were able to get by Legrecht for a moment, then he kind of came back in and fought with you for a little bit. You were able to close the gap just a little bit on the race leaders. And, you know, you talked about it, settling for fourth in the moment. You wasn't really going nowhere. Did you feel like a fourth place car, or did you feel like in the moment, yeah, I could maybe take third if I could really put it on Legrecht? But, but then later on in the situation, but at that time when you were able to get back through there, get past Legrecht, how were you feeling at that point of the race?
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe in that second half, maybe I can snag third if I keep Legrecht behind, but like, still would have not been easy. So, he could have very, set me up for a moving Porsche cars perhaps. But yeah, as Legrecht was saying, there was contact with Sean and Mgezin that caused him to spin, and then I saw Mgezin go off just before Terre Rouge, just on the exit of the left right. At that point, I thought, okay, well, if I just hold it together at this point, I should be able to win this. Like, keep it consistent, don't make any silly mistakes.
And let's talk about the situation. You were running fourth, I believe. I don't remember, third or fourth. Okay, and you were right there behind it as well. Did you feel like a safety car should have been implemented in that moment, or was there not enough for you to see to be like, hey guys, we need to call that?
Not at the time. I couldn't see what happened to Sean. I just come around through the four chicanes to see sideways and near the wall, so I just assumed he went on his own.
Yeah, I was gonna say hard for you to make a call on your own from behind, but yeah, and then you were able to see that happen. You were able to get the race lead. At the moment you got the race lead, what was going through your head? I know that you're usually cool, calm, and collected. You're just gonna run your course, but did you feel like, okay, how much time do I have? These three have been faster than me throughout the majority of this race. Where were you in that moment to kind of get to the end?
I guess just seeing how it played out, just stick to what I was doing and just kind of see how they'd gain. So they started working together, using the slipstream to kind of pull back. It's quite a good few tenths per straight if you use it properly. So I was figuring it's going to be quite close, but with Sean having the fuel save at the end, which I did not know at the time,
kind of saved me at that point.
Yeah, it seemed like Sean was really gaining on you with 3 laps to go, and then just kind of cut off. And like you, I didn't know until now. But let's talk about the second half of the season. Now you're sitting probably comfortably in the points a little bit. Again, we didn't get the last week's points updated in time for tonight, so we'll get those updated before the new week starts. But we've kind of seen a different story. Normally these championships don't have too many guys jumping in. You're kind of in the situation where McGezzin and Sean have been very, very strong. Legrecht as well. Bobberts has kind of faded a little bit, but he's right there. He's doing a lot better off his GT campaign. Do you feel like the job's not done? I mean, obviously, it's easy to say, well, the job's not done, but you got a couple guys that seem pretty hungry, and Sean looks better than ever. Your thoughts going into the second half? Do you feel like you got to change a couple of things, or, as you said, run its course?
Probably actually tribal stuff at the setup seems to be where I've gone wrong twice now. Although I didn't make the Road America one in fairness, but that's a different issue compared to this as well. But yeah, I guess just try more of a setup. Need to experiment more, try extract pace because it seems to be going wrong more or less.
Has there been a certain has there been a certain thing that's been a lot different for you in this championship than championships past? We know it's a different game since the last championships we've ran, but with the guys that are up front battling, what seems to be a little bit different in the fight to win these things?
It's just closer basically. The skill gap's closer. It's very hard to get away from people in this game when they're very close at this level. The slipstream is very powerful. So it's not like 7 where there wasn't really any slipstream. It was a lot easier to run away, and the skill gap was bigger on that game, so it was easier to just drive away from people. But in this game, it's just overall a lot tighter, so you have to be more on it.
Well, nonetheless, Barcode, another win. That's second on the season. We know that there's 3 more races to go. 3 more races to make things click right, I should say. Congrats on your win here tonight, and as always, we know we'll see you next week. And again, congratulations.
Thank you.
ESV Barcode, ladies and gentlemen, first overall. And as always, I'm SSR Mayhem. Thank you for tuning in here tonight to watch Le Mans. We had some great action early on, and then big trouble with Sean and McGezzin. Barcode would go on through and hang on to the gap between him and Sean. Sean, we found out, fuel saving late. So Sean would bring it home second. Legrecht would bring it home third. Bobberts and Villa finishing 4th and 5th. And then we go down to 8th. Your pole sitter, Dex McGezzin. And between him, ZR Cranky, PTG Houseman, 6th and 7th. PTG Little Caesar, 9th. Rounding out your top 10 is Gatillo. And again, he was up to about 7th, but decided to wait after an incident with him and the PTG drivers. And then PTG Neb would bring it home 11th, 12th, SSR Quinn, and then it would go RX Motor 13th, 14th, Derluki, and then rounding out the 15th spot would be ZR Montero. Again, I'm SSR Mayhem. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, we'll see you again next week, same time, same place. See you next time.